Yahweh, please help us, oh. This piercing lion on this one. Yahweh, help us, oh. We are down on her knees. Yahweh, the trials are tough. Yahweh, with a broken heart. Yahweh, 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 please help us, Lord. Please help us. Yahweh, please help us. The trials are tough. Please help us. The journey is rough. Please save us. Our power has failed. Redeem us. We call on your name. Don't forsake us. The hatred is much. Come on. Yeah. The suffering is much. Come on. The storm is so great. Don't leave us. Please hold our hands and save us. Help us, oh. We are down on her knees. The trials are tough. With a broken heart. Please help us, oh. Please help us. Yahweh, please help us. We give our all to you. Hallelujah. We're groaning in pain. Please hear us. Our ruach is weak. Strengthen us. Delusion is much. Please lead us. Baraka were women with children. Make our hearts love as brethren. United as one. No hatred. Our souls getting tired. We all pray. Help us, oh. We are down on our knees. Trials are tough. With a broken heart. Please help us, oh. Please help us. There is a woman who live in my neighborhood. I tell you, this woman, she got no child. I tell you, this woman, she got no help. People saw her, people laughing. Everywhere them a mock her situation. Yeah, how I come here I cry. Oh yeah, here I cry. Woman, I can remember Sarah. Woman, why you crying? Can't you remember Hannah? Fist a liar. This one. He commands the universe with a word he's done. Love is the rule. His judgment is one. Mighty and just, Uluwa supreme. He speaks and nations tremble at his voice. His love is fire, burning with great joy. He leads the humble through darkest night. His commandments shine like stars inside. Yahweh is great, and your love is divine. Ruling all flesh with your power forever. Your commandments are sure, and your love is what we have. We bow our crowns to you. We say Tonaya. With mighty power, he lifts the low. His love is justice. Where we all go, he hears the cry of the broken heart, mending lives, brand new from the start. He's the Alpha Omega, the way his commandments lead us. Come guiding us forward with love as our guide. Yahweh is great, and your love is divine. Ruling all flesh with your power forever. Your commandments are sure. And your love is what we have. We bow our crowns to you. We say Toda Yahweh. Let everything breathe your house. Pray. He's what in every way. Love, command, judgment true. Yahweh, hallelujah, you are great. Yahweh is great. We proclaim love divine, forever the same. Hallelujah, let it rise. Yahweh's greatness touch the skies. Yahweh is great. We proclaim Yahweh divine, forever the same. Yahweh's greatness, let it be known from captivity to Zion. We going back home. Ahabwa Kazan, Mahabwa Ramle. Yahweh is great. We proclaim love divine, forever the same. Hallelujah, let it rise. Yahweh's greatness touch the skies, forever reigns. Our King supreme, Ahabwa Kazak, Malakwa Amen. Yahweh is great.
Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Shalom.
All right,
Can you hear me
shalom.
okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, I hear you just fine. Just fine. So give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get a little better angle for us. Hold on. All right. That might be better. Okay. All right, sis. So welcome back. I know we did part one. It's been a while, and this is part two. So
Yes.
we're gonna come up with some more information today, dealing with fraternities and sororities. So again, welcome everybody to Israel Now's podcast. Um, this will be part two of a show that we did, I think, about 2 to 3 months ago, um, dealing with this topic. We have the same sister coming back again, who was an ex-member of a sorority, and she told y'all a lot about it in part one. She'll bring some more information today, dealing with part two, and so pretty much those go back and see part one if you haven't, but definitely just should be in for a lot of information today, a lot of things that need to be shared to our young people that are in colleges. If you have, you know, teenagers that are going off to college, more than likely they're gonna be introduced to these type of things, and it's always best that they know a lot of these things before they even go. Before you get tempted with certain things, you want to already know what's at stake, and that's a part of what this show is about. And it's none better than to have a person that actually lived it, been through that lifestyle, and now in the truth serving the Almighty, and we can compare and contrast, and But I'm gonna let her pretty much take it away. I'm gonna introduce her, Sister Dion, and you can pretty much do your thing. I may step in from time to time with a question or two, a question that I may have, as well as I may think someone in the listener audience may have. They could type questions in the chat, and after a while, when you're ready, I could read some to you as well. But besides that, I'm gonna just kind of let you do your thing, and I know you're ready for this. This is like something that you do, so it's on you, sis.
All right. Shalom, shalom, everyone. And Moray, thank you for having me back again. I so appreciate it. I mentioned the first time that my testimony is my ministry to help others. I wish that the information that's available now to people who are either thinking about joining Greek organizations or secret societies, to help those who are thinking about joining one of those types of organizations or those who are already members of them. A lot of times, for most people, they just didn't understand what was happening, what being a member consisted of and involved. So I just praise Yah so much, just daily, honestly, for opening up my eyes to the truth and for opening up the eyes of so many others, just lifting up the veils, just lifting the veils of deceit that we were under, and just exposing, the truth so that we could, either, show our obedience to the Most High Yah, or, and we know that the opposite of obedience is rebelliousness. So, and that's where he's going to sift the wheat from the tares, right? But that's for him to do, not for us to do. So my purpose today is to just share information, truth, and honesty, in a very transparent way, at least as much as possible, so that people can make their own decisions. And sometimes people have the information and they still decide to make decisions that don't align with the Most High Yah and his word and his instructions. But sometimes that's for a reason, because for me, I truly believe that it was to bring me to where I am today, to shed light on these things and to help others come, under, his law, statutes, and commandments. So I could talk about this all day long. So Moray, don't hesitate to, ask me questions, to, throw out, additional information, especially as the audience might have questions. Don't hesitate to, ask those. Okay.
Okay.
So anyways, just to kind of reintroduce myself for those of you who have not seen the first podcast. My name is Deanna, Koti Dion. I am a former member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. I was pledged, initiated, whatever term you want to use, at Tall Chapter, which is located in Bloomington, Indiana at Indiana University. So I became a member in the spring of 1994. There were 23 of us. And just to put this out there, this praise out there, actually from those 23, that number is down to 20 because 3 of us have denounced formally. So renounced and denounced. So I was a member. So I was initiated in spring of 1994, and I was a member for 25 years before the Most High Yah really, yanked me out is really the better word, the better phrase or term that I probably should use. So yeah, were you about to ask something?
No, I just thought that was funny how you put that.
Okay.
You said most yanked you out of there.
Yes, he did. So how did that happen? Well, first, let me say this. The first podcast was focused more on the idolatry piece. And then this podcast, today's discussion will focus more on the covenant piece of it, which would be an unholy covenant. So I just want to put that out there because I'll go into, what does a covenant look like versus a contract and things like that. But he yanked me out. Well, it was a slow process. If I'm honest about it, it was a very slow process for me to finally walk in obedience. I say that because a family member shared with me, I'm going to say somewhere between 15 and 20 years ago. First, let me say I denounced in 2019. That's important to know. So I denounced, I submitted my letter to the corporate office on actually October 15th of 2019. So between 1994, you just, do the math, to 2019, that's 25 years. So I denounced in 2019. So probably 10 years prior to that, a family member shared with me that being in a Greek organization was not of the Most High. This was before I was awakened to the truth of not only our identity, biblically speaking, But at that, and even when I came under that knowledge of knowing, that I am a descendant of, the Hebrew Israelites that are in the scriptures, I didn't wake up into to the knowledge that we're still bound, we're still in covenant with the Most High Yah. We still have to obey His instructions, His law, statutes, and commandments. So that came in two parts. So when my sister, actually, I said a family member, it was actually one of my sisters who was already in the truth of who we are and was already honoring and observing, the Sabbath, the high holy days, as we call them, the Moedims, the high Sabbaths. She, of course, was already following the law, statutes, and commandments. At that time, I didn't get it. I didn't understand. I thought she was something similar to Muslims, but not quite. To the Nation of Islam. I really couldn't put my finger on it. She tried to, explain to me the truth, but at that time, really the Most High, the scales were thick over my eyes. They truly were. I'm just going to call it what it is. So she tried. So I denounced in 2019, probably 10 years prior to that, if not longer. She shared with me that, being in a Greek organization was not, right spiritually and biblically speaking. So I ignored her. And then fast forward to 2013, it was brought to my attention again by a complete stranger. And you know how we do, our cousins and them, right? And I'm one of them. It took a perfect stranger for me to finally listen, fully listen. I was all ears. I was all in for hearing, the truth. But once again, that was the Most High Yah who had been ordering my steps. He had been orchestrating things all along, also that I could have this testimony.
Let me ask you something real quick. When the perfect stranger told you about this, did you immediately make the connection to this is what your sister was talking about, or you didn't make that connection right away?
I did.
Yeah.
And I called her. Because when she first she told me that being in a Greek organization was not of, at that time she said she used the language that I knew, which was God. She was using, the language that I could, that I understood. Let's put it that way. So, so at that time I wasn't in any kind of way awakened, and then. And actually, I wasn't until the stranger. So she tried to share, the truth with me as far as our identity. Like a little bit later, after she told me it wasn't of the Most High Yah, fast forward a little bit later, she then tried to tell me, show me who, our identity using the scriptures. But I was being very hard-headed and stiff-necked, right? True to Yasharel, right? From the beginning to today. Hard-headed and stiff-necked, that was me. So she tried to tell me everything, that being in the organization was wrong. Then she tried to tell me, who we are and that, what we're supposed to, how we're supposed to, what we're commanded, how we're commanded to follow, Yahuwah. So completely ignored all that. When I say I completely ignored it, I completely ignored it. And then, so when it came to me by this perfect stranger, then I immediately was able to connect the dots. So when I talked to this individual for like probably that first time for probably nothing less than 5 hours. So when we were talking on the phone, and once I hung up, I then called my sister, and I was like, "Hey, is this what you were trying to tell me? And is this who you identify as?" Because I didn't know what to call it. Once again, I didn't know. So and she was like, "Yeah." So yeah, and then from that time, from 2013, I've been running and being in obedience, just nonstop. But yes, but when it came to me leaving my organization, my former organization, so here I was, knowing who I was, reading and studying all day long. he told me then, like I said, he became the second person to tell me that being in a Greek organization was wrong. So then I started studying, secret societies and secret organizations. And I mean, when I say I studied, you guys, I'm sad to say, I'm embarrassed to say, yes, 6 years worth. It took 6 years of me studying the truth about the sorority that I was involved with, which I can't remember if I said it. Did I already say there was Alpha Kappa Alpha? So
I think you said it on the first one.
okay. So I'm a former member. I've been kind of skipping around. So I'm a former member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I was because we talked about the idolatry part last time, but now we're focusing on the covenant piece, right? You don't understand. Unless you're in it, you have no idea about the covenant, the stronghold that you're in. So even people, were trying to, there were people who I really trusted who were trying to tell me that it wasn't of, Yahuwah, it wasn't of Yah. I had a hard time letting go. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to go much deeper into that. But I dragged my feet for 6 years. And then finally, the Most High spoke to me and said, basically, is now or else. I mean, he made it plain, clear as day. I knew that last grain of sand was about to fall out of the hourglass. And I knew my life was on the line. And that is real, everyone, because we know that all throughout the scriptures, people who were in disobedience, the Most High Yah would open up the earth and swallow them up. He would drop them dead right then and there. I always think about I think it was a Levite or someone, a soldier, someone who tried to catch the Ark of the Covenant, but that was in direct violation of, Yah's instructions, and he died just like that. I knew that day was coming. So that it became clear on the night of October 14th, 2019. So that by the morning of 7 a.m., the morning of October 15th, I was at my laptop and, wrote my letter of my letter asking for the headquarters, the corporate office, to remove my membership from the books. I also sent because I was active at that time. I was active in a local chapter here in Indianapolis, a graduate chapter. So I sent an email to the president of that chapter, letting her know what was going on. I also picked up the phone and called a few people. So that's my denouncement and renouncing testimony. So that all of that happened in between October and December of 2019. And why do I say between that time? Because I didn't formally denounce publicly until probably like December or something like that, maybe January. And I did that via Facebook. But I have formally and officially renounced and denounced my affiliation with that sorority.
Right. Hey, but that's a great testimony right there. A lot of people are not strong enough to do that,
Yes.
and that's great that you was obedient to the Most High when you heard the Most High's voice and you did it. Scripture says, "The day that you hear His voice, harden not your heart." That's
Right.
what you did. Hallelujah for that.
Yes, hallelujah. And I praise him. And I, of course, I've, asked, for forgiveness. I've gone into deep prayer, asking for forgiveness, because not only did I know that I needed to ask for forgiveness, for my disobedience, to the Most High God, but I also needed forgiveness for encouraging others to, join these Greek organizations, and even helped several people become members of these organizations. So yeah. So what I could go through now is, and I have lots of notes, you all, and I'll definitely try to keep it short. And so if it looks like I'm shuffling around some, it's because I am. I have 2 Word documents and a PowerPoint. I'm not going to show any of those. I'm just using them to help me stay organized, right, as I speak and as I share information. So we're talking about the unholy covenant that is made when any individual joins a Greek organization. First, let me say identity is key. Just knowing who we are, even if you're not so much awakened to the truth of our identity, just being strong in who you are. And if you are someone who, considers yourself, this is for the people who, don't know or don't understand that we are who we're the descendants of. And, they might use the titles God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost, whatever. For those people, I was one of those individuals. I was basically born and raised in the church. So I consider myself very knowledgeable in the scriptures, but still very immature. You remember I said that I became a member when I was young in 1994. So as much as I had been raised in the church, this was something, making unholy covenants, getting warnings about joining these kind of organizations, once you go to college, that was something that that never came across my ears. And because they are advertised both, so first let me say, sororities are the organizations, college organizations that are for females. Fraternities are the ones that are for men, for young men. Okay. Well, I can't even say young men, because you can still, like someone who's 60 years old right now, 70 years old, they can still become a member if they want to, within one of the Black Greek letter organizations. And there are 9 of those. Okay. So, but anyways, what pretty much, because most of the people I knew, we all were raised in the church. So, but spiritual discernment, spiritual warfare, and what does a covenant look like, and what does unholy covenants look like? That was something, I was in the church. If the doors were open, I was in the church, listening to, pastor after pastor. And that was just something that just never came across my ears, which is why all of these testimonies of people who are, coming out by the thousands, everyone. When I say by the thousands, this is not an exaggeration. They're coming out. Not as many as we would like, but that's why it's going to take each of us, not being afraid to speak. The scripture says to cry aloud. We also know what we're up against. We're up against Hasatan. We're up against hard-necked and stiff-necked people, right? We know that the Israelites stayed in trouble, if you will, because of their disobedience and idolatry. So, so not knowing what a covenant was, I didn't understand that when I was going through the initiation process, that not only was I committing idolatry that lasted the entire time that I was in the organization, but I had also made an unholy covenant that has consequences, and that bring about generational strongholds, and can even lead to premature death. It's no joke. It is no joke. So what I kind of wanted to go over right now is just in the business world, right? You hear of contracts, right? So what is the difference between a contract and a covenant? So that's what I want to kind of talk about first. And then I will go into my initiation process so that you can see exactly where the unholy covenants were made. And then Maureen, once again, feel free to jump in, because I'm sure you have lots of knowledge on covenants as well. Okay, for sure. So just, so with regards to contracts, there are key characteristics. So the first one is, and I'm looking at my notes, contracts are performance-based exchanges. They are also time-bound with exit clauses. Thirdly, the obligations depend on compliance. And then last but not least, they're enforced primarily by legal systems. So think about any time that you have a contract. Let's just use work, for instance. If if you're not a full-time employee or a part-time, you might be a contract employee, which, all the terms are listed. It's performance based. You're hired for XYZ reasons. Here are the expectations that, they want you to, for your productivity to, be at this amount, at this level, whatever. And there's an end date. Whenever you have a contract, there's always an end date or at least a renewal date, right? So on such and such date, we can either terminate the contract or it can be renewed, right? And and then once again, your obligations are dependent upon compliance. So you have to stay in compliance for that contract. Otherwise, you can easily terminate that contract. So if you have a contract with someone, and let's say I am the contractee, if I don't fulfill my obligations, then the contractor can terminate the contract, and vice versa, because this was an agreement that was made. So if they're not fulfilling their obligations, like they're not paying me, right? Then I can say, forget this. I'm bouncing, peace, and terminate the contract. And then I can, if those obligations aren't met, then either the contractor or the contractee can use the legal system to, be compensated for, when those terms weren't met. So I hope everyone's following me so far. So how does that compare to a covenant? Okay. And covenants are spiritual, because even when a person marries, right? When when you have a spouse, you're in covenant. So I'm using the secular definitions, but they definitely are applicable on the, in the spiritual realm. So covenants, the key characteristics of a covenant are they're rooted in promise and loyalty. We see that all. That's what the Most High Yah did with Yasharel. It was, rooted. He made promises, and he was loyal to us, even though we weren't loyal to him, oftentimes. Secondly, they're often lifelong or enduring, meaning they're, just infinite covenants. This would just never end, which once again applies biblically speaking when we're talking about the Most High, because we know that the covenants he made with Yasharel are never ending. No matter how hard that we were, I mean, he turned his back on us for a time, right? But he said, I will, return your captivity, meaning he's going to, reverse it, right? And because of his love, that's what all of the Old Testament and New Testament is about his enduring love, for his chosen seed. That still just gives me chills when I think about it. So thirdly, the identity, identity shaping commitments are involved. So like, we know we're Yasharel. We know that we're the chosen seed, right? We, know what, who we are in the Most High Yah. And then last but not least, there is a component of, an important component of moral and relational accountability. So just to go over those again, covenants are rooted in promise and loyalty. They're often lifelong and enduring. They involve identity shaping commitments, and they consist of a moral and relational accountability. That's the difference between covenants and contracts. So just to kind of give some examples, like with a contract will say, I will stay if you perform XYZ. This contract will exist if these terms are met. Whereas with a covenant, it's based upon, I stay because I made this promise to you, whether it's from my end, our end to the Most High Yah, or from the Most High Yah to us. You being awfully quiet, Moray.
Yeah, no, I'm just sitting back listening, waiting on you to do your thing. That's all.
Okay, well, like I
I'll
said,
step
I
in.
have 3, like a whole PowerPoint and 2 whole, like 2-page Word documents. So jump in.
Okay. Yep, I'll step in from time to time.
Okay. So, when we talk about biblical covenants, I'm just going to kind of give you like big picture, references. Like, for example, Yahuwah relates to Yasharel primarily through covenants. We are all aware of that. Covenants also establish identity before obedience. And then faithfulness flows from our relationship. So they're not transactional. It's based upon our relationship with the Most High. So the biblical markers of a covenant consist of solemn vows and oaths. So this is important because I'm going to make a comparison. So when I'm talking about the biblical markers of a covenant, like I said, covenants are more spiritually based, right? So every single thing that I'm about to list that are the markers of a covenant are very much very obvious when joining or being a part of a Greek organization, whether it's a Black Greek lettered organization or white, it doesn't matter. Whether it's considered Christian based, which is what got a lot of us confused, because when I joined Alpha Kappa Alpha, it was promoted as a Christian based organization. That is what deceived almost all of us. Well, I can't say almost all of us. It deceived all of us. But you also have those Greek organizations that are called Christian organizations, whereas this it was just promoted and marketed as Christian based. But you also have, if you go to any college campus, they will also have social and Christian based Greek organizations, as well as some that are for different professions and things like that. So there's several different colors.
I was gonna say I do know that there are a whole lot of Black pastors in the U.S. that are a part of these different fraternities.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I feel like most of the prominent ones are.
I would agree. I would agree. They and all of us drank the Kool-Aid. We were deceived. And it's hard to come out of that until you really make a decision that, hey, you know what? What do we always what we used to always say when I was in Christianity was for, at that time I used God. For God I live, for God I die. Until you truly, come to terms with that and come into agreement with that and decide, hey, you know what? Go into prayer, go into fasting. What is it about me that doesn't align with you or your word? It's very hard to see past that. That's why there's so many Christian pastors. There's several here recently, the past like 3 to 4, 5, 6 months, who have, who were they were big on TikTok and Facebook because they're now, a member of Kappa Alpha Psi or Mega Psi Phi or one of the others. So yeah, it's sad and it's so disheartening. It's like, okay, how could you not see this? But what do we know? That Hasatan is, he's a deceiver. That's who and what he is. So
Exactly. Yep.
yeah. And that's what it is, especially when you want something so bad. So that's why it took me 6 years to come out, because I wanted the benefits of being a member, because benefits come with membership.
Okay.
Any member of any of these organizations, they're going to tell you just that. Benefits come with membership. But
Can you go into that? What type of benefits?
Oh my goodness, yes. Lots and lots of benefits. So one is the sisterhood or the brotherhood, and which comes, so which doesn't matter which fraternity or sorority you're in. No matter where you go, you're going to find members of those organizations who are, even if you're a perfect stranger, and I can attest to this, even if you're a perfect stranger, they're going to welcome you in with open arms. Prime example, number one, I moved to Fresno, California back in fact, my daughter was just born, so they had to been at 1994. Yeah, because I was pregnant, you guys, when I crossed. So like 2 months later, I gave birth to my oldest daughter. So, anyways, I moved out there. Me and her father were engaged, and that's where he lived. And so I had moved out to Fresno, California. The only person I knew was him. The only person I knew. He actually was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha from the same school that I was from, which is Indiana University. So, but he had already lived out there for like several years. So he had lots of friends and frat brothers and things like that. So, of course, here I come, and AKA. So he was like, don't worry. He was like, I got you. So he introduced me to the AKAs there in the city. And when I say they welcomed me with open arms, they did just that. They did just that. So that at least gave me, some support. I felt like I had some support, where they were strangers, but they weren't strangers. So there's that piece. So it doesn't matter where you go around the globe, because all of these Greek organizations are global. It doesn't matter whether you're in Africa, Japan, Thailand. It does not matter. They're in the islands. It does not matter. So all that you would do is just connect with one of them, and almost instantaneous, friendship. So there's that component. The second component is Alpha Kappa Alpha. So anywhere you go, well, let me just talk about here in Indianapolis, which is where I live, Indianapolis, Indiana. Alpha AKAs are big here in the city of Indianapolis, and the vast majority of the members, they're no joke. We're talking about the upper echelon of, in the Black community. We're talking about, leaders of the church. We're talking about CEOs and presidents of companies and or organizations. If there's probably not a single nonprofit organization that I could list where there isn't a member of AKA either on the board of directors, or volunteer for that organization, or things like that. They're the doctors, they're the superintendents, they're the judges in the court system here. They're definitely attorneys, doctors, so anytime any of us needed anything, hey, you just shoot an email, a text, or pick up the phone and call them, and they got you. Same as with jobs. If, for example, let's say someone who, this is a real thing, is very high up in one of the community hospitals here. Actually, we had several that were in various part of the. I'm sorry, we have several hospital communities, not communities, but entities, whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't matter where you're talking about the like Community North, or you're talking about Eskenazi, or just community health. It doesn't matter. There are AKAs at the top. Okay, so I'm saying this to say, let's say that there's a position that's open, we would know about it. The members of AKA would know about that position being open before it opened up to the public. Why? Okay. Because then we can submit our resume to this individual, and we're going to get basically, I'm going to say, first right of refusal. And so that's, and it doesn't, and you don't have to be in the same organization. Let's say at that time when I was a member, if there was, let's say, a CEO who was, the person who was doing the hiring process for whatever company, let's say that person was a member of Omega Psi Phi, who we call Q dogs. So let's say he's a person who's reviewing the resumes. Let's say my resume comes across his desk. He sees I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Guess who's going to get an interview? I am. So just being a member of one of what's called the D9 organizations. Why D9? That D stands for divine. So the divine nine, whenever you hear the term, the divine nine, that is referring to the 9 Black Greek organizations. Okay. So there's, for sororities, that's AKA, Delta Sigma, so Alpha Kappa Alpha, Delta Sigma Theta, Sigma Gamma Rho, Delta Sigma DST, Sigma Gamma Rho, Zeta Phi Beta. I think there's four. Yeah, there's four Black Greek sororities, and then you have the Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, I think it is. The Iotas, I can't remember theirs, and then I'm missing one. I'm
Okay.
missing one, but that's neither here nor there. You can Google it, and it'll show up.
Right.
So, so anyway, so if you're a member, and there's someone who's hiring, just being a member will, get you at least through the door. And then, like I said, anything that's going on in the city, like for example, Michelle Obama came into town when President Obama was still in office, and most of the seats were already taken before they even hit the public, because they were pushed out to the member of these organizations, especially Alpha Kappa Alpha, because the person who was the coordinator of these events, she pushed it out. And now the chapter I belong to was at that time like 400 members strong. So we took up a lot of those seats between us and our families and all that. So we had great seats to see Michelle Obama. So those are just a few examples, the things I'm talking about. So anything that's going on in the city, you are going to receive preferential treatment. So that goes back to that old school way where you have the Black elite. When you're a member of these organizations, you're considered automatically a part of that. So there's benefits.
I think people wonder, how are these people always very successful? Because there's a lot of people, even in the entertainment industry, different things like that, are they're able to get different businesses going and all the stuff because they have a leg up just by being in those.
Absolutely.
Yep. You know what I relate that to? I relate that to remember when Satan tempted the Messiah? Remember when he told him, he said, if you bow and worship me, I can give you all of the earth, like all of the kingdoms of this world, because the kingdoms of this world belong to Satan. And Satan is going to give them to those who are in cahoots with him and his people. And
absolutely. Absolutely. That's the truth of the matter. There's no rebuttal for that. It's the absolute truth. Yes. And it's sad because it leaves a lot of people who are just as qualified, they don't have that kind of access, or to not only the positions, especially in the political world. So and then, and I was just talking about this the other day. I attended a funeral, and my former first lady was there, who is also one of my former sorors. And I said to someone I was at the funeral with, it was actually one of our Zycanes who passed away. So in the funeral, the service was packed, it was packed. So anyway, so she was there, and it just reminded me of, how as a member of, because she was an AK, she still is an AK as far as I know. All the AKs that went to that church, we were tight knit. And I remember she wasn't even active because she was busy being a first lady. And so those of us who were active members of AKA, we convinced her to reactivate. And I feel horrible about that to this day, because she might have been on her way out the door to denouncing, but because of this peer pressure that me and several others placed on her, she reactivated. At least at that time. I don't know about what she's doing now, but so even in the church, we knew each other because not only was she the first lady, but the people that were in the leadership at that church were all either Freemasons or members of Greek organizations. So yeah. So there was a point so we're talking about did you have another question before I go through the list of the biblical markers of a covenant?
Nope. Go right ahead.
Okay. So yeah. So the biblical markers, like I said, of a covenant, which completely, there's not a single one that I'm going to list that doesn't show up in a major way, significant way, when you become a member of a Greek organization, which is a whole problem too, right? Greeks, we're not Greek. So that identity piece is insane. How we can walk around saying, we're Greek, I'm Greek, wearing their letters, don't know a single word, letter of our African ancestry, languages. So that's crazy. I just had to throw that in. But anyways, biblical markers of a covenant. So the first one of them is solemn vows and oaths that are made, which I'm going to tie in here shortly. Ritualized initiation, enduring or lifelong obligation, identity redefinition. Ooh, that one's huge. Loyalty beyond performance. I just hit on that just a minute ago when I talked about access to all these high position jobs, making, buku money, the high paying jobs. Consequences for violation. And then that going back to that tie of like brother and sister. So just that familial language, hey, like whenever we saw each other. So like whenever I was out and about, didn't matter where, you would think that this would be contained within like our meetings or things like that. But whenever we saw each other out in public, there was a certain way we greeted each other. And it wasn't brother or sister, it was soror or, frat. So anytime I was at the grocery store, if I happened to see, Jane Doe, and she was, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, it was, hey, so we're Jane Doe. Always. That's how you greeted them. You didn't just call them Jane Doe. It was, you had to attach that title to it. And with that title, if you ran into someone who you questioned whether or not they were a member of your specific organization, there are phrases and movements and handshakes that you do to test that individual, because there are perpetrators, people who just want to be a member so bad, and they think that they forget that the world is very small, right? First of all. So it doesn't take but 2 seconds to see if this person is really a member, because you're going to ask questions. So what chapter did you, pledge at, or through? What was your line name? These are just things that this isn't part of the secret codes. We had secret codes and secret handshakes. But outside of that, you could easily tell someone was perping. And that was because you would just ask them the simple questions like, how large was your line? What chapter, what was your specific line name, which goes into the identity redefinition. So just to kind of go back over those, because I want to now tie it into, I'm mostly going to talk about the sorority that I was affiliated with, but trust and believe it translates across all of them. They just may not use the exact same words or things like that, but it translates to all of them. There's not a single Greek organization, be they Black, white, Latino, Asian, whatever, that doesn't involve all of these markers of a covenant. So solemn vows and oaths. Remember, we're talking about covenants. How do you know it's a covenant? How do you know that you're involved in an unholy covenant? Because you're doing these things that I just listed to something or someone other than the Most High Yah, right? Plus each of these Greek organizations, which you learned if you watch the first podcast, are tied directly to a false deity. Every last one of them. If you don't know anything else, whether you consider yourself awakened or not, everyone knows a little bit about Greek mythology. And one thing that we know about the Greeks is that they what's it called, Moray, where you worship believe in multiple gods. So you're either mono or you're poly. Yeah, polytheistic. I think I said that word right. But so you either believe in one God or many gods. Of course, so I believe in one creator, Abba, Father, Yahuwah. Greeks, they have a God for the sun, a God for the moon, a God for the stars, a God for love, a God for war or goddess, wisdom, fertility, the earth, wind, fire, you name it. There's a false deity that's attached to it. So they serve multiple gods. Um,
Exactly. Right.
yeah. So that in and of itself should have been hint number one. Is for I didn't like history and I never took Greek mythology in
Right.
school or in college.
Right. Right.
So
Yep.
that
You get all the gods in that class. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
that
And
connection.
they
I
go
never
all the way
made that
back to Egypt. Yeah, I said those same gods go all the way back to Egypt too.
Yes,
You know,
yes. So thank you
they
for
come
saying
up to Greek, they just change the names. They go to Roman, they just change the names, but the same
that.
gods in the same story.
Absolutely, absolutely what they did.
Hmm.
All of them
Right,
go back to Egyptian gods. Every
right,
last one of them. Like you said, they just
right,
changed the name. And
right,
sometimes their characteristics and traits
right.
sometimes.
You
So
know,
yeah,
interesting is something that you said earlier that I've always known and heard that Masons had secret handshakes and secret codes, but
they
I
do.
never realized that with fraternities and sororities. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? I thought that was just a Masonic thing and not
Mm-mm.
necessarily a fraternity.
No, but Moray, when you and I first started talking before the first when you were inviting me to the first podcast to talk about Greek organizations, um, uh, I mentioned, and you may not recall this, but so anyways, if you can Google this, every single Greek organization is patterned after Freemasonry, every last one of them. And so therefore the the various components from the recruitment process to the initiation process to what it
Right.
looks like afterwards and the fact that it's lifelong
Mhm.
is the pattern is the exact same.
Okay.
These might look different, but the
Right.
pattern is the exact same.
Right.
Yeah. And in fact, I know for sure that Freemasonry, whether you're talking about the white chapters or like Prince Hall Masons, which are the black, you know, that's the black Freemasons, they often, recruit directly from, fraternities, so, the alphas, the, Omega Psi, members of Omega Psi Phi, the Qs, Kappas. So they usually, it's almost synonymous. So like if you become, if you end up pledging, becoming a member of a fraternity, whether it's a black, white, or whatever, is makes the path much easier to become a member of one of those, of Freemasonry. So,
Okay.
and the same as with Eastern Star. Now, I don't know a lot about Eastern Star. My grandmother was
Okay.
one. She's passed away, and I didn't meet her until I was older in life, so I never had the time to ask her questions about it.
Okay.
So I don't know what their membership looks like. I was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha for 25 years. I never knew, to my knowledge, of anyone that was a member of Eastern Star.
Okay.
If they were, I just don't know. I don't know a member of Eastern Star to this day. I don't know any besides my grandmother who's passed on.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know how easy, how that looks like, that pipeline. I don't know what that pipeline looks like,
Right. Right.
into,
Okay.
to become a member of Eastern Star.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when we talk about the solemn vows and oaths that are required, once again, that's an indicator that you're in an unholy covenant. So yes, we made vows and oaths. When? When do we do that? And how did we not know? How did we not? It never even entered our brains,
Hmm.
our minds,
Right.
that what we were doing was something that was unholy.
Right.
So those solemn vows and oaths are made at the exact moment that you become a member. So at the time that you become a member, there is the second thing, the second bullet point is ritualized initiation. Okay. So during that ritualized initiation, that's the same time that you're, saying out loud, making these solemn vows and oaths. So you're learning them and you have to repeat after what they're saying. And you're in this dark room And if you're, if you are initiated at the undergraduate level, because you can become a member at the graduate level as long as you have an undergraduate degree, you can become a member. Doesn't matter. Once again, like I said not too long ago, you can be 70, 80 years old, and as long as you have a bachelor's degree, you can become a member of whatever organization you want to be a part of, as long as you're invited and go through the membership intake process. So anyways, so like, for example, and I'm just saying this for educational purposes and so that you all know what I mean by vows and oaths. So every single Greek organization, fraternities and sororities, they actually have what's called a ritual book. So when they're initiating new members into that organization, there is a book that they're reading from, and it shows exactly what everyone is supposed to do, the members and the new members coming in, the initiates. So it's telling exactly what people should be wearing, where they should be standing, how they should be standing, how they should be walking, what the room should look like, what should be in the room. So should the room be dark? Is there a table? Which table is really not a table? It's called a ceremonial table. But in some of these ritual books, you can Google it right now, they're actually called altars. They are literally called altars. So that ties in the unholy covenant piece, right? So tomato, right? I don't care what you call it, whether you call it a ceremonial table or an actual altar. If you actually use the word altar, it's the one and the same. And it tells you how it should be draped, like a white linen, cloth, tablecloth over it with, like one white large candle that's lit, which is to represent, for example, in Alpha Kappa Alpha, the founding soror, which was Ethel Hedgeman Lyle. There is the crest, which has, so many pearls around it, because each of the pearls, the number of pearls, everything has significance, just like in the scriptures. There's nothing that's there by coincidence. So whenever
you be in one of these rooms and not even know that it's decorated like that, because a person could be using those things, you know what I mean, in other aspects of life. Just things according to what they learned in their sorority.
Yeah, exactly.
No, unless you was a part of that or privy to this information and knowledge.
Yes, because you don't get those.
You're kind of enter into like an altar and not even know anything.
Mm-hmm. We didn't know it. We did not know. I'm telling you all, it's the truth. It's the absolute truth. You don't. That's how Hasatan deceives us. If it was blatantly clear, if it was just blatant like that, you wouldn't, for those of us who called ourselves Christians, even in Christianity, or whether you called yourself, a Muslim, whatever, didn't matter. You're deceived because information was kept from you intentionally. So those ritual books, had we had them prior to that night, that day that we were initiated, it might have caused our eyebrows to rise. It would have caused us to ask some questions. It would have even caused some of us to even walk out and say, I'm not doing that. But it's very intentional. And when you're at the undergraduate level, you are exhausted because you've been online for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and oftentimes even longer, especially people who pledge fraternities. They tend to end up being online a lot longer than new members of sororities. So you don't get to see any of that. And at that time, you're so exhausted that when they say repeat after me, guess what you're going to do? Repeat after them.
Not think about it.
Yeah. And for example, I can't remember what time we crossed, but chances are it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And we definitely hadn't slept that whole week because we had went through hell week before. That's always in the undergraduate chapters. If they haze or if they're pledged, which most of them do. So you're about to cross when all of a sudden things intensifies, significantly. So when you can no longer be seen out on the yard campus by yourself, when you know you have to wear all black, you can't wear anything with colors, with color to it. You can't really even hardly comb your hair. You don't even have time to eat. You don't have time to study because you're going through the hazing process. You're learning the founders. You're learning dates. You're learning like dates of incorporation, dates that the sorority was founded, dates that not only the sorority was founded, but also for each chapter that the chapter that you were initiated into, when it was chartered, things like that. Who were the original founders? Who were the founders of the chapter that you're from? That you're being initiated. There's all this information that you have to learn. So when you're in Hell Week, and then you basically know when it's Hell Night, because that means things were increased significantly during that week leading up to. Then that night is on and popping. It's on and popping. And but that's the underground process. But through the regular above ground process, the membership intake process, that's when you'll learn the vows and the oaths. That's when you're going to really repeat the vows and the oaths. So that's when, once again, I said, you have that written. So the president is holding a book and is telling you what to do. Is saying, repeat after me. You're delirious, or you're excited. So because above ground, you're not so much delirious, you are, but you're, just so excited. This process is finally over. My dream is finally coming true. I'm finally about to become a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha or Delta Sigma Theta or Kappa Alpha Psi, whatever. You just repeat it. You're not thinking about what you're saying at all. And so the pledge for Alpha Kappa Alpha is, which lets you know that you're in direct idolatry is, and I said this during our first podcast, is, and I might even get it wrong now because I try not to even think about it. And it's definitely I've been, think 6 years now, because 2019. So 6 or 7 years that I've been out. So this pledge was said, which is an oath basically, but it was said every single time we met. We had a chapter meeting, whether you're a college campus and attending the chapter meetings, or if you're in the grad chapter. So the pledge was to thee. So it personifies the organization. So to thee, O Alpha Kappa Alpha, we pledge our hearts, our minds, our strength, everything that's supposed to belong to the Most High. Yeah, right. So to thee, O Alpha Kappa Alpha, we pledge our hearts, our minds, our strength to foster thy teachings. Whose teachings? Alpha Kappa Alphas. So to foster thy teachings, to obey thy laws. Whose laws? And to make thee supreme. To make who supreme? In service to all mankind. O Alpha Kappa Alpha, we greet thee. So that lets you know that you're pledging yourself. You're making an oath, a covenant to something that's other than the Most High Yah. And it used a verse from the Bible to do it.
Okay, wow. That whole thing sounds like something that you would say to the Almighty, actually.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's in the scriptures. That's in the Bible, in the New Testament.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So when it talks about Christian base, it brings just enough of the Bible, verses from the Bible to make you believe. But then they tweaked it. They took God or Jesus, whatever title you want to use, completely out of that and inserted Alpha Kappa Alpha or whatever, each organization has their different various pledges and oaths that they say. Like for Delta Sigma Theta, Minerva, don't take me at my word. This is anything and everything I'm telling you is something you can look up yourself. Okay. So look up Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and look at what's on their crest. It's the goddess Minerva. It's supposed to be the goddess of wisdom. Minerva is said throughout their rituals. I mean, they even have a Minerva prayer. I watch and listen testimonials all the time of members who have denounced. So I've not seen these books, but you can watch. I don't care if you watch 30 of them, 30 members of that organization who are sharing their denouncement testimony. Every last one of them are going to tell you about the Minerva prayer. They're also going to tell you about their Omega chapter, What's that? That is the chapter that when their members die, that they go to,
Okay.
not to the place of rest and peace for and waiting for judgment and to enter the kingdom. No, you go to this place called Omega chapter. Are you serious? And
Right.
so I use them because in the AKA rituals, there isn't a god or goddess that's specifically mentioned, but Alpha Kappa Alpha is, and they talk about the light, the light, the light. They're talking about what? The Aka light, AKA. So we sounded out Aka.
Okay.
So when we were online, we had to stand with our hands to our sides like this. And you'll see pictures of members of AKAs with their hands all the way down with their hands up like this. They're looking up. And what are they doing in that pose? They're searching for the Aka light, the AKA light.
Okay.
Not for God, not for Jesus, not for the Most High Yah, or whatever God or whatever you worship or serve. It's the Aka light, AKA. Everything you say and do just about is going to be to AKA. So now I said that about Delta Sigma Theta, but for Alpha Kappa Alpha, on that crest is the god Atlas. So, and then another god that's intertwined with that is the Greek god, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this, but Dionysus, or is Dion, which is how my first name is spelled, but then add a Y and an SUS afterwards. And anyone who kind of knows a little bit about Greek history, whenever you add SUS to the end of something, is because they've elevated that individual to a god. So, but it's Dionysus. Why is that significant? Because that's where the ivy leaf comes in. So at the ceremonial table, the altar, that's where you're going to find the crest with the Greek god Atlas, and then the table is going to be intertwined with ivy. This is who you're making your covenant to. You don't know it, even though the god, little G god Atlas is on the crest. But we were told, because this is where the secrets come in. Once you initiate it, we're told what each emblem on the crest stands for. So Atlas stands for strength and endurance. But Maury, this is where I want to share my screen, okay, for a moment, and show both Dionysus, or how you pronounce that guy's name, and Atlas. Okay, so present, share screen. Okay, and then hold on, let me pull it up first. Okay, if you could pull it in, Moray, that would be great. There we go. So here is the god that's on the crest for Alpha Kappa Alpha. So this right here is Atlas, all of these. So why am I bringing that up? Not only is it a false deity, right? But let me show you what he's known for. Even though I just shared that we're told that Atlas stands for strength and endurance, right? But when you Google what the characteristic traits, who is Atlas, it says right here. I think you can, yes. So hopefully you guys can see this. Let me kind of increase it some.
You see the picture, but the writing is small.
Okay, did that make it better?
It got bigger, but on my end, I still can't make it out. It did get bigger than it was, though.
Is that better?
One can Google and Wikipedia. Yeah, that's a little better. You can see it.
Okay, yeah. So hold on, actually. So you can see that better?
Yep.
So you guys know I'm not making this up. And yes,
that'll be better, but I can't see it and make it out, though.
Would you say? Oh, you can't see it?
No, I can. I can see it and make it out, but if you could make it just a little bit bigger, I think that'd
Okay.
be better for me. Yep.
Is that
Okay.
better?
Yeah, maybe a little smaller because you will have to scroll over.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I will. Yeah.
yep, all of the words, wasn't in the screen.
Okay. So, hopefully you all can see this, but if not, just Google it. Whoever's, listening, just Google it, just Google Atlas and who
Mhm.
is Atlas. So it says in Greek mythology, Atlas is a titan condemned. That's the key word right there.
Mhm.
Condemned to hold up the heavens or sky for eternity after the Titan, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Mackie, or I don't know how to pronounce that. Uh, Atlas also plays a role in the myths of two of the greatest Greek heroes, Hercules and Perseus. According to the ancient Greek poet, I hate these words, these names, Hesiod or whatever, Atlas stood at the ends of the earth in the extreme west. Later, he became commonly identified with the Atlas Mountains. But this is what I wanted to point out right here: condemned to hold up the heavens or sky for eternity. This wasn't a good thing, you all. So, why? And one of his characteristic traits is considered strength and endurance, and you'll find that when you Google. But also, the same token, the same paragraph, you'll see that it was a punishment.
Right.
That's why he's holding up the earth.
Mhm.
So we were told that it stands for. Look at that. That's crazy. Here, you can tell it's not a good thing. He's not happy. Look here
Mhm.
in this picture.
Right.
But if he's holding up the earth, where does the Most High Yah come in, who created it?
Right. Right. Right.
He's the one who's holding it up,
Hmm.
who created the heavens, the earth, and everything in it. So
Right.
that's why these organizations, if you call yourself Christian or whatever, you have no business walking around with a false deity on your bag, on your clothes. Some people had like Bible covers with the crest on it that had this Greek god on it. So now we just talked about Alice, but I also mentioned Ivy, right? Because anyone who knows anything about Alpha Kappa Alpha, you know that uh, the Ivy leaf is huge for AKAs. In almost any picture, anytime that you look at a picture of an AKA, she's almost always going to be throwing up the Ivy sign, which is either this, you can see my hand. So this is Ivy, or this. I think I did it wrong. Yeah. So yes. So it's either gonna be the front like this. It's usually not the front. It's usually backwards. It's usually you can see the flesh. So that's
Okay.
the shape of an ivy leaf, right? So and then on the ceremonial table, you're gonna have strands of ivy all over it. Well, why ivy? Okay, let me show you. You guys see what I'm typing in, so you can do it yourself.
Hmm.
You see what's on his head? The
Hmm.
ivy.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep.
And why? What is ivy significant of? Wait till you see this. Okay. Um, um, and significance.
It says while you looking it up, I got a comment online that I think is very significant as well. Kenaniah said the deity that you was mentioning
Mhm.
that on the screen with starts with the Dion.
Uh-huh.
It says that deity was one of the Greeks. Or sorry, that deity was who the Greeks were celebrating when they defiled the temple with swine blood.
Oh,
In the book of Maccabees, where the whole story comes from with Hanukkah, our feast of dedication.
see, y'all. We can't make this up. We
Yep.
cannot make this up.
Yep.
So Hope you can still see this. I think you
See
can.
it good. Yep, see it
Okay.
real.
Okay, so ivy is deeply intertwined with the mythological figure of, I'm just gonna call him, how would you pronounce it? Dionysus?
Not really sure,
Dionysus?
actually.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say Dionysus, okay? I hated that name was too close to mine, right? So it's deeply intertwined with the mythological figure of Dionysus, the Greek god of what does that say, Moray? Can you read
Uh,
it? Oops, I'm sorry. Can you read what it says? Wine and
oh, right, Ryan and what's that?
revelry. Revelry.
Right, what's
Yes.
that? Parties or something?
Yes.
Beverly.
Yes. Revelry. So I'm sorry.
Right.
It's so it says the plant's association with Dionysus stems from its ability to cling and climb, symbolizing the gods, false, the little g gods, strength and resilience. But hold on. Ivy's evergreen nature represents eternal life, and its tenacity reflects the spirit of Dionysian revelry, where one lets loose and
Mm-hmm.
celebrates without inhibition.
Right, right.
Ivy plant served as a protective charm during festivals, reminding followers to embrace life's fleeting moments fearlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Look, let me go down a little bit. Symbolizes eternal life and what? Pleasure. If you
Mm-hmm.
see that, pleasure.
Yep, yep,
Now, aren't we supposed to die to our flesh every
yep,
day, daily?
yep, absolutely. And
So,
that's what a lot of colleges are known for too.
yes.
Medicine, you know what I mean? Without any thought for it or anything, they say, "Hey, you in college, you just do whatever you want to do at the time." You know what I mean? Just live your flesh. When you get out, then you'll be responsible. Then you'll be more, morally upright and all of that stuff. But they say that's the time to do it, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
them sororities, fraternities, they encourage it,
Yeah.
even their deities that they worship. You know,
Yeah, so you're taking on that spirit. So once you say the pledges and the oaths to these Greek organizations that worship and serve multiple gods, you're taking on their spirits,
right,
on the spirit of these Greek gods
right,
or Roman gods or Egyptian gods. Because with Alpha Phi Alpha, it's Egyptian. I mean, all the way you can tell because it's Pharaoh and then the pyramid. What's it called? The big thing, the Sphinx. So with Alpha Phi Alpha, they at least, even though it's still wrong, but they at least stuck to their heritage and roots, Egyptian heritage and roots, even though the Egyptians, we know, that's why the Most High Yah forbid us to, mate with them, to marry with them, because of all of the false gods that they served. So, you guys, we just can't make this up. And just that's why I say that this has now become my ministry, is to share the truth. They're not going to tell you this. If you go up to any member of Alpha Kappa Alpha or any of the Greek organizations, be they black, white, or whatever, they're completely sold. They don't know. They don't get it. I didn't get it. Someone had to, as much as I consider, like I said, myself to be, in the word and prayerful and all that. A lot of things come through revelation and just having a pure heart to, ask the Most High to reveal things to you. That is crucial. So when you're living this good life and you're receiving all these benefits, it's hard to want to open your eyes. That's why I dragged my feet for 6 years. For 6 years, because of all those benefits, not only the benefits that I received, but the other part of that, because I lied to myself. This was me lying to myself, which was, oh, it's holding me accountable to, I kid you not, to the scriptures where, we're commanded to serve others. So I said, I will no longer. So for
see a
6
lot of
years,
people saying that actually.
would you
You
say?
hear me? I said I can see a lot of people actually saying that. Yeah,
I was one of them. I was like,
yeah,
oh, once I knew the truth about the ceremonies and the rituals and the oaths and pledges, I stopped doing those.
right.
But I was up there, I was trying to, negotiate with the Most High by saying, okay, I'm going to stay in, but I'm only going to do the community service parts. And that's
Right.
what I
Right.
did.
Right.
Whenever they said
Okay.
the pledge, I never said it. When they
Okay.
had rituals, I didn't attend those.
Right.
But if we were out handing out book bags stuffed with school supplies, I was there and probably the first one there. In fact, I was usually the one because I was y'all a super what they call a super soror. I was super duper
Mm.
involved in Alpha
Okay.
Kappa Alpha, led many committees or initiatives or targets, as you will. Um,
Mm.
I was when I denounced, I was not only the assistant treasurer, but I had just um, I had just committed myself to a new 2-year term.
Mm.
So I was, like I said, I was, if Alpha Kappa Alpha was doing something, I was there. So
Right.
anyway, so I won't hold you guys up more, much longer. But I just, it was just those pieces
Mm.
where, everything that is considered that is a component of covenants, it showed up. For example, just to go back to the list, you remember one of them was enduring or a lifelong obligation. So it was once a soror, always a soror.
Right.
Once a frat, always a frat.
Mm.
Fact, we would say to the day we die. Those
Mm.
words literally came out of our mouth.
Okay.
I'm an AKA, an AKA. I'm an
Right.
AKA to the day I die.
Mm. Right.
And to even come out of it, I came out at a good time. I denounced at a good time because that was at the very beginning of this rush of hundreds and thousands of people learning the truth and deciding to,
Mm.
denounce membership.
Mm.
So they didn't know, they didn't have a process really in place. All you had to do, I just wrote my letter. Then I received a letter back like 2 months later where they said, okay, we've honored your request. You're no longer, we've removed you from the books, which is important, you guys. Just deactivating doesn't isn't synonymous with breaking the covenant. You have to actually physically renounce and denounce and have your names removed from the books. And then, of course, pray and fast to the Most High Yah. So, because once those strongholds, once you've entered a covenant, what did I say earlier? That the Most High Yah honors covenants, whether it's to Him or to something else. That's why He says you can't serve two masters because He's going to honor. If you're in covenant with another master, quote unquote, to another God deity, He's going to honor that. You can't be with Him. He was like, no, I'm a jealous Yah. So the lifelong obligation. So you have to completely terminate that. You have to remove your name off the books. Then the identity redefine. I'm sorry, redefine your change of identity. So,
Right.
in church, we always say, once ask, I'm just talking about Christianity. Once ask God for forgiveness, you become a new creature, right? We read that scripture all the time. I think it's in Romans or somewhere. So,
Mhm.
anyways, well, this is patterned the same way. Once you
Okay.
become a member of an organization, like for example, I took on a whole new identity. Every last one of us did. I got not only my line name, which was 23 Jewels, which each letter stood for something. I also had a new individual name, which was Expect. I got that name because I was expecting my daughter at that time. So that's how I got my name. But you see people with their names, right? Their line names and their individual names. And
Okay.
then, some people just completely change into this new individual. I can't say I didn't change
Mhm.
into someone that people weren't familiar with. I didn't change with regards to that. But you do have a new identity. So that's one of the other things that is a marker of a covenant. Then loyalty beyond performance. We've already talked about that. Consequences for violation. So like if you do something wrong, there's consequences. You could be suspended. You could be expelled. And then for now, the new process, if you submit your letter to be removed from the membership, they actually, are you guys ready for this? Every other year is a Boule conference, which is an international conference that AK Alpha Kappa Alpha holds every other year. The Boule change locations. So, anyways, you're considered not officially removed from their roster until you've been voted out during the Boule conference.
So
Guys,
even if you consider yourself not a part, they have to do it, is what you're saying.
yes. So that was just formalized like 2 years ago. So they didn't. So I wasn't voted on. I thought they were going to vote on me. Once I learned that they were going to, I just figured that they would take all the people who had, previously denounced, and I thought that their names would be on that list. But I guess they just started like a certain year, and then from that point they voted those people out. So this brings me to this. It's a covenant. It's a spiritual thing where you can go in and volunteer for Big Brothers Big Sisters for 10 years, and you don't have to renounce or denounce your membership or submit a notarized letter asking them to remove your name from the roster, and then they're going to turn around and say, "Oh, we got to vote on you." That's how there's a deep spiritual tie. Many of us volunteer in various capacities, and once you choose that, you decide that you don't want to be, volunteer, do community service with that organization any longer. You just like, okay, I'm done. You'll, send an email. Might even just, verbally say to someone, in the organization, hey, I no longer want to do this. My last case or my last, whatever it is, might be, it's going to end, my last day will be, June 30th of whatever year. Easy breezy, right? But you got to go through hoops to join a community service organization, and you got to jump through hoops to get out. So yeah, so that's basically it. I mean, there's a lot more we could go into, but I'll be talking all night long, and I've already been talking for an hour and a half. So
I definitely appreciate the information that you brought. Especially with those showing the different deities and things like that. And one of the things I wasn't aware until the first time, that how you said that all of them kind of stick together. You know what I mean? They'll all look out for each other, no matter which one of the divine nine you were in. I wasn't really aware that it crossed, I guess groups like that. I just thought each stuck to themselves, and each group would look out for the person in their group. But it just shows that they understand that they're all are worshiping and serving something than other people are not. Because some of the aspects of what you brought out, it actually seems like more like a religion to me.
It is.
Yeah. And I don't think nobody said it like that, but it definitely seems like a religion in so many ways.
It is. Now, let me say this. When you're at the undergraduate level, it is more individualized. So the deltas stick together, the AKAs stick together. I mean, we definitely, would, be friends, but sometimes there was definitely beef, amongst the various, Greek organizations. But, you did look out mostly for one another. But once you graduate from, college, and now you're in the professional world, all of that stuff fades away. You're not tripping because, I'm an AKA and yuck, you're a Delta. It's not like that anymore. Okay. In fact, once you graduate from college, we called each other. Like, for example, I was an AKA. So I would say, yeah, this is my sister. She's just a member of, Delta Sigma Theta. So we still would call each other, sisters. Like we would call the men that were members our frat. So that was the same thing as saying sorors, but even though I'm a female, I would say, yeah, this is my frat, and he might be a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, or, then of course, a lot of times they intermingle as far as like marrying. So that's why when you're driving through town, you'll see license plates where one side might say AKA and the other side will say KA sign. That's because they're married, or one side might say DST and the other one might say, Alpha Phi Alpha. So they tend to, because they spend so much time together doing different things out in the community, and just connections, right? Just making connections. Oftentimes members of the D9 end up marrying which then causes that stronghold, that generational stronghold to come into place. Because now, you remember I said that my oldest daughter's father is an alpha. So
Uh-huh.
here I was an AKA, he was an alpha, and we were both from the same college, university. So
Right.
when our daughter was born, it was automatic, without a doubt, assumed that she would join AKA at Indiana University.
Okay.
And just life circumstances prevented that from happening. She did go to IU. She was definitely, you know, not only planning to pledge AKA, but she would have, because she would have been considered a legacy, and especially as active as I was, and the chapter that I was affiliated with was the grad chapter that supervised the undergrad chapter at IU. It was a given. In fact, when they took a line, the graduate advisor there called me, or she sent me a text or something, said, "Where's your daughter at?" Because it was the T, and it was the time that they were it's called a T when you express your interest and you turn in your application. So when she saw that my daughter wasn't there, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, where's your daughter?" And she also was going to give her extra time to turn in her application, because it's a hard deadline. If you
Right.
don't meet this deadline, you don't have your application completed and turned in by 11:59 p.m., then you are, out of luck, right? But she was like, we'll give her extra time to get hers turned in. But what they didn't know is that year that they were taking a line, my daughter had already transferred to IUPUI in Indianapolis, Indiana. So she wasn't even no longer there. And then soon thereafter, I, denounced.
Right.
And we're both so grateful. Me and my oldest daughter were so grateful that she never, that the Most High put that barrier up. She never got a chance, an opportunity to pledge. And I'm so thankful and grateful.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So you was able to go through it and able to tell her the information, so she don't have to go.
Right.
You know, it's how it's supposed to be. That's why we need elders. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we need elders. Like everybody have elders to be able to tell you things. So we don't have to make the same mistakes that they
Right.
made in our age. You know.
Right.
So, yep. All right, sis. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on again for part two. Definitely appreciate the information that you brought out and just sharing your story, open and honest, your story about, your time in the sorority and different things like that. Um, I think that everyone listening should definitely share this information, part one and two, to people that are potentially may be about to go into different sororities or fraternities. Some of our young people that are going to college next year and are even in college now, they're going to get approached and they may not know anything about it. Share share these lives with them. Share these lives with people that are already in it and been in it for years, as she has, and just show forth the contradictions that you can't serve two masters. You can't serve the Almighty Yahweh and
Mhm.
serve this fraternity and these Greek deities that are behind these fraternities. You can't serve two masters. The scriptures are very clear about that. So, you're going to have to make a decision. Do I serve the Most High, or do I serve this organization? You know, and thankful for the Most High that this sister decided to serve the Almighty and drop the Greek organization. Hallelujah for that.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Just one more
So,
thing, more, if you don't mind. For anyone who has questions and would like to have more information, I will definitely make myself available. All you have to do is just reach out to Moray, via, email or YouTube channel, whatever. And I am willing, like I said, this is my ministry. So, because there's so much more I could go into, so much more. But also, so I'm willing to talk with whomever. Um, and then also, it's the information is there already. I mean, just Google. I mean, we Google everything else. Go to YouTube. Just type in um, uh, denouncing members of Greek organizations, and you'll see tons of YouTube,
right,
recordings of people who have denounced across the board. Now, right now, you'll see more females than men who have denounced. That doesn't mean that they haven't that they're not denouncing in large numbers. They're just a little bit more private. Men just tend to be more private, but more and more here lately, I'm seeing more and more men who are um, publicly, denouncing their memberships. So, but it's there. I don't care whether someone is a member, when it comes to fraternities, all of the female Greek Black Greek organizations are represented in the denouncement videos, but you'll see fewer of the fraternities, Black Greek fraternities, but they're there, and they will go into details. I mean, they're pulling out the ritual books and
Right.
reading. I didn't want this video, this recording could have went on for another 10 hours if I would have done that, but just to do the legwork, do your own research. The information is there. They're pulling out the booklets. They're reading you to everyone verbatim what the ritual book says for Alpha Kappa Alpha, the one that I was in, and for all the other Greek organizations. They're also talking about the idolatry, the hazing and pledging, the people who have died trying to get into these organizations. One of them was Caleb Wilson, was his name recently, like about 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Made it big. I mean, he was like, that was national news because he was pledging, was it Q's? Was he Omega Psi Phi? I think it was Caleb Wilson. Just Google it.
I'm gonna check that out. I haven't heard of it though. Okay.
Yeah. Google people who have died pledging Greek organizations, and a whole bunch of information will pop up. So just do your research, and I don't advise you to go to, if you go to someone who's an active member and it hasn't even crossed their mind to that they're caught up in idolatry and unholy covenants, you're not going to get the answer that you need. You have to be willing to, you don't even have to dig deep anymore. Do your own research and learn the truth. Learn the truth. I'm not lying. I wish I was, because it's sad. It's heartbreaking. This stuff is real, and it has generational repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, sis. Well, once again, I just want to thank you again for coming on. Thank you for just bringing forth the information and sharing your story freely. And I'm sure this story is going to help people that may be involved in these things or may be potentially thinking about getting involved. So definitely y'all help to share this information. Of course, she said she's open for anyone that want to reach out to her. Let me know. I can get you in touch with her so she can help with that for anyone that may need it. And just want to end this podcast by saying, may the Most High bless every one of you. May the Most High keep you, make his face to shine upon you, and give you peace. And shalom, family.
Shalom, everyone, listeners, and to Moray. Thanks for having me again. Shalom.
Thank you. Coming on. Shalom.